brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, miniatures, and paints, discount prices at miniaturemarket.com. Hello everybody, welcome to another War and Pieces. Today we're going to be talking about a game that is a second printing, and has been covered quite a bit, so you probably know the game or own the game. But I want to do something a little different today. We're going to go down the board. I'm going to explain a little bit of this game, but I really want to talk about this game in a way that nobody else has, and talking about this particular time and why these two the two people that developed this game, Jason Matthews and Christian Leonhard, what I think their vision was, because it's a very fascinating time. Now this is about 1960, the making of a president, and you may be thinking a lot of you are too young to remember this time, but I don't think people understand how critical this particular year for an election was. Now, this isn't about Republican or Democrat. This is about two different people with two different ideals, okay? And how our election process works, and how at this particular junction things go differently. I like to talk more about that after we take a look at this game. So why don't we go down to the table? We'll take a quick look. There's 500 videos out there with how to play this game. This is a must-have, I feel. But what we're going to do is, after we take a look at the beautiful GMT components, which, you know, I say that all the time, but let's face facts. This is a gorgeous game. We're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit about what I think they were trying to accomplish here, and it's a different take on it. But I hope you'll come back and listen, and I think it'll entice you to get this game even more. So let's go down to the table and check it out. So once again, another phenomenal, and I say that word a lot. A wonderful job. This board is absolutely huge and beautiful. I actually have to pick up this camera and move it. I seem to do that a lot with GMT games, because they give you just such a beautiful play area. Just done perfectly, wonderfully, and amazingly done. This is such an interesting game. I'm not going to explain a lot of terms because there are a ton of beautiful videos out there that explain the game perfectly, and I'll just be rehashing another thing. And I don't want to do that. What I want to do is give you a little brief overview of this, and then talk more about why I think the designers made this game. And the phenomenal, and I use that word a lot when it comes to GMT, way they did things. This is a card-driven game. What's going to happen here is the first 5 turns you are going to play through in 5 different phases. The 6th turn is going to be a debate, okay? And the debate, well, you are going to be fighting for state support cubes, okay, on each of these issues, all right? After that, you're going to have 2 more turns, okay? And then finally, it's election day, where you're going to tally up all the electoral votes and see how that's going to work. Each phase is done in a different way. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to have a bag. You start off the game with 12 support cubes from each side, and you are going to see who has an initiative, and you're going to pull one of these cubes out, and, well, Richard Nixon would have the initiative. He could either go first or have President Kennedy go, whoever's playing that. You're going to do, at that point, once that's established, you're going to have 5 activities, okay? You're going to have a hand of 6 cards, and these cards do a bunch of different things, okay? If you draw this card and you're the Democrat, say you're President Kennedy, well, you're going to get 2 campaign points. Campaign points are very important. Or you're going to be able to play an event, okay? That sits up here, okay? And there are normal events and persistent events. in order to play this event, you're going to have to spend one of your momentum tokens. Now, you get 2 momentum tokens to start, but you have to earn more. And how are you going to do that? Well, right here, through the issues track. You're going to be trying to win these issues, okay? You're going to try to win these, and they're going to give you momentum tokens and endorsement cards. Endorsement cards are going to help you influence a certain area. So as you can see, you can place one of these endorsement cards, which are both sided, and it may help you in media, okay? Because back then, media wasn't as prominent as it is now, but it was starting to become a tool, and it played into this election, believe it or not. Media started to be a tool that each candidate was able to use, okay? And it was the birth where media really made a huge difference. There's all kinds of different cards that you're going to be able to use, and how you can use these campaign points is how you can possibly influence an area. Say, for instance, as you can see, each candidate starts in their home state, okay? Massachusetts for Kennedy, and then, of course, California for Richard Nixon. Say he decided to come over to, well, Louisiana here, which normally would have two campaign points on it, as you can see, because it was very strong at that point for the Democrats. Well, Richard Nixon wants to spend a couple of campaign points, and he would pull from the bag saying, I'm going to pull 4 tokens using 4 campaign points. Now, if he was able enough to pull out 4, well, guess what? That would eliminate 2, and the 2 extra would be right there, meaning that now the influence and the control and the electoral points would go to Nixon at that particular point. And then, of course, he would move on. The same thing would be happening here with the Democrats as well, as they would be trying to take over certain states and have a campaign strategy into which it was the best way for them to formulate a plan, the best way to win as much of the electoral vote as they possibly could. After you play your cards and you play your campaign points and you play a candidate card, you're going to go down to your momentum phase. Remember what we said, you start off with 2, but you need to have these in order to change events and do different things. And then your campaign strategy phase, this is going to be at the point where, you know, you're going to kind of try to figure out, okay, what do I need to try to change things up here and be able to do that. So you're going to go through all 5 of those phases and then move the turn marker, as well as get to that debate point, which is very critical because you're going to get you're going to get a boost from this particular with campaign points. Okay. Very, very interesting and fascinating game, and what and how it does things. Also, your card here, you can always turn that over and exhaust it to gain 5 additional campaign points, which just might be enough to swap to move into a state that you really need to move at the last moment, depending on what your strategy is. Issues become a huge thing, from equal rights to the auto workers. And the cards really make a big difference in the sign of the times. Okay, the Civil Rights Act in 1960. All these things are going to help you build momentum and get endorsements as you tackle the very tough issues of the day. Now, like I said, this is a brief overview. What I really want to do is go up top and give you my thoughts on why these 2 wonderful designers decided to pick this period or this particular election, okay, and make you understand how important of a time this was. Okay, this isn't a political thing. This isn't about Democrat or Republican. It's the time. It's the 60s. It's all the different things that were happening, and why this particular election, and if the outcome was different, what if, and how it goes about. Let's go up top and get my thoughts on this phenomenal and wonderful experience, 1960, the making of a president. Okay, let's just start. Okay, 1960, making a president. You know, the time between John Kennedy and Richard Nixon. GMT, let's just face it. All right, the reason you're at the top is putting out games by people that are smart, give you a chance to kind of take a look at what would happen if history changed, how you can change history. And I think that's the interesting thing about this is what if, you know, and if you look at that with every GMT game, I think, you know, whether it's World War II, World War I, coin series, there's a lot of what ifs, because things always go by a thread. And if you are able to change history, what are the ramifications? And the interesting thing about this was a very interesting time between these two individuals. One on the right, Nixon, who's old school politician, and here comes John F. Kennedy, who had a new ideal. They had two different ways that they wanted to take this nation, and I think it's really captured on the times, because now in 1960 you were just starting, televisions were more becoming prominent into the home. So it's not like today where media is everywhere. You had another avenue, another coin in your pocket with the up and coming of media. All the discord that the 60s were. You know, there was equal rights. There were just so many different things. People wanted different things. Okay, we had the Cold War going on, so you had two different ideals. One person with a vision of one way, and another person with a vision of the other way. Were both of them, was one right, one wrong? No, it depends on your business, how you see things. But for me, this is a non-political zone. So what I think, or what anybody thinks, and believe me, I try to keep politics out of here. But the interesting thing about this is, and you do have to take a look at this a certain way, the different regions and how you reach those regions, and how you push your message across, and how our election process worked back then. This is an amazing game that pulls that out and does a fantastic job with all the different momentum or non-momentum that you had due to the issues of the day. What if you really think about this, and why I think they picked this, and this is part of the reason I made this video the way I did. With Kennedy in office, we had the Bay of Pigs, okay, the Cuban Missile Crisis, okay, his unfortunate demise, okay, one of the most unbelievable speeches where he declares that by the end of the decade, it's his vision to see a man on the moon, okay? And because of his demise, how this nation rallied together to see his dream come true, okay? How he handled certain things in the short time that he was president. But what if Nixon had won, okay? What happens at the Bay of Pigs, okay? A very controversial subject. A very headstrong Nixon. What happens at the Cuban Missile Crisis? Does it get handled differently? And if you watch anything on that, or if you played some of the games that have been about it, it's a hair. Okay, it was averted by a hair. Okay, does one decision that Nixon does that cause something to go awry, or does it end quicker than the 13 days? You don't know. And And do we make it to the moon in 1969 if President Nixon was in office at the time? Was that his agenda? Okay, how would things be handled with civil rights and all the other things? It's a tipping point, and it's a very important piece of history that is laid out on this board and done beautifully by these two men, Jason Matthews and Christian Leonard. I hope I'm not butchering your name, and that's why I think getting this game, it isn't about whether you're left or right. It's about this time period and how the 60s were turmoil, and amazingly how history repeats itself. Okay, two different visions. Okay, and how do you get there? Can you change history, or do you even become more dominant in the history that happened? Beautifully done, beautifully curtailed, and it's a game that makes you think. All right, if you're a history buff, this is a game that you must have in your arsenal. I really believe this. Another phenomenal job by GMT, who takes subjects and lets people have the freedom to create these beautiful and wonderful games. Another tip of the hat to them, as well as the two designers who did this. Absolutely phenomenal, beautifully done, excellent game. And I really feel that this is something that is a must-have, because not only can you learn a lot from this, okay, and understand how things are done, but you can look at a lot of what-if situations, and I really think this is just something that you really need to have. Until next time, for another War and Pieces, it's your old pal Rob. We'll see you soon. Go pick this up. You can get it at Miniature Market and at GMT Games. You won't be disappointed. I promise you that.